Not every film can be Citizen Kane, but even critics have claimed that it was shit in its day. Some films are shit and shit they will stay, but some get better over time because of Nicolas Cage. So which film stays shit forever? And which one's got a little bit better? Second chance movies. No poor bloods were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Welcome to Second Chance Movies, the podcast where we rewatch movies and decide if they deserve a second chance.
I'm Joe Harper, your host who loves rewatching movies and enjoys reading some comic books.
And I'm Jessica Quaz, your one and done kind of moviegoer who just realized these comic book movies aren't going away anytime soon, huh? And today we are giving a second chance to Iron Man 2.
We're discussing this movie today because it is one of the lowest ranked Marvel movies in our MCU universe.
That's right. I was very curious to watch this movie because one, I hadn't seen it in a while. And like you said, it's always highly debated when it comes to like some of the worst Marvel movies. And also I wanted to revisit Black Widow's intro and see if that held up over time.
Especially what we know now. Watching all of our Marvel movies from the beginning after watching Endgame and seeing where all the characters end up, it's crazy.
It is.
It's wild. What a wild ride we've had.
It is a wild
10,
ride.
12, 13 years.
Marvel be giving it to us.
Thank you, Marvel.
Thanks, Marvel.
All right, guys, we're going to start off with the summary in case anyone is unaware of or doesn't remember what happened in Iron Man 2. We are going to say spoilers. We're talking about movies in an old movie, but hopefully we've seen it. If not, maybe we'll see it. All right, guys, IMDb says, with the world now aware of his identity as Iron Man, Tony Stark must contend with both his declining health and a vengeful madman with ties to his father's legacy. How do we feel about that?
I mean, it's not wrong. Like
okay.
these things do happen in the movie, but also so much happens in this movie that it is hard to condense into a summary.
I do think that is a very good summary of the movie because there are way too many things happening for us to add everything. I'll definitely be talking about everything, every conflict he has in this movie. But the way I describe this movie is the Iron Man movie with Whiplash, the Russian with the parrot and the scary electric jump ropes, and we get a Don Cheadle.
We get a Don Cheadle upgrade. We get an upgrade in this movie.
Boy, do we.
I would summarize this movie as Iron Man is going through it. Tony Stark is going through it, and he's going through it with a lot of things. A lot of things. He's just going through it.
Let's talk about our first viewing of this movie.
Yeah, so I'll start off first because mine is like a little lackluster, I will say. I didn't see it in theaters, I don't believe. I remember seeing the trailer and thinking like, whoa, Mickey Rourke looks dope in this movie. I want to watch this. And I think I saw it like shortly after it got released on like DVD or VOD, I'm not sure. And yeah, I just remember watching it and just being like, okay, yeah, that was, I guess, fine. Like, I didn't have any sort of like strong reaction or emotions to it. I was just kind of like, all right, yeah, stuff happens. Okay.
I definitely saw this in the theater. I was a huge fan of superhero movies, big action blockbuster movies, and especially coming off of The Wrestler, I was like, oh, wow, Mickey Rourke is going to be a villain in this superhero movie? Oh, I got to see this. I think I left that theater, I can't say disappointed, because I just felt like something was missing. I just felt like it wrapped up in a weird, incomplete way, or just felt like we were missing something. It could have been a little bit more. There's a lot. It was a fun ride. There's a lot of fun things that happen in this movie, but I've just like felt something missing. I have watched this movie multiple times. I feel like any other time there's like, I think when Avengers was coming out, I was like, let me rewatch them all. Before Endgame came out, let me rewatch them all. When I, had the wife and I haven't watched all the Marvel movies. Well, now I got to show you all these Marvel movies and sit through them all again. So yeah, I've seen it a few times, and I guess this time was time for me to be more critical.
Okay. This was my second time watching it. Again, I'm a one and done kind of movie watcher. So, and actually I had noticed that it had been probably a full decade since I watched the first Iron Man.
Wow.
So I even watched the first Iron Man and then
To prepare?
Iron Man 2 to prepare, but also to see like comparatively as a sequel, like how,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like to have it in the context of like a sequel.
The way I view this movie now is definitely in the eyes of, I know what's happened in context of what we've received throughout all the MCU. Does this still make sense? Or do they say some lines like, oh, that actually doesn't end up quite like that. Continuity is weird now. We'll find out.
We'll find out. We'll talk about it after some reviews.
You love reviews.
Reviews are the best. Oh man, I just love them. Good and bad. I love them.
We'll start off by saying on the tomato meter for Rotten Tomatoes, tomato meter score 72%, audience score 71%. So everyone kind of felt like this was not bad, but mediocre.
It was like a C plus, right? Isn't that what a 75%?
I think it's 70 is C plus. But according to all like our Marvel movies, it's one of the lowest rated on the tomato meter. It's pretty low. It's there with like Thor: The Dark World.
Oh, that's a movie.
Yeah. You say so. All right, guys. Let's get to some reviews. Where do you want to start off first? Positive reviews, negative reviews?
Let's start off with some negative reviews. Let's get spicy.
Sure. We got Mike Massey with Gone with the Twins. He said, much of the magic that made the original film entertaining is left by the wayside in favor of bigger bangs and larger quantities of machine gun toting robots.
Machine gun toting robots. I mean that.
I love the machine gun toting robots. Give me more of that. I think sequels deserve something bigger, more explosives, whatever you got to do, bigger and better with a sequel.
Deborah Ross from The Spectre wrote, if there were any new ideas, I failed to spot them, as did my bone marrow, which slept through most of it anyhow.
Jeez.
Can your bone marrow sleep?
Wow.
She did not like it.
There's some new ideas. I feel like there's some new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's also some regurgitation, but we can get into that later.
I mean, we're at the beginning of like the renaissance of our Marvel movies and the start of it all. And so like, I feel like you got to build up, like, give us something familiar. That way, and later, we can give us some really crazy stuff like WandaVision.
Exactly, yeah. Like it was built upon way more and some even crazier stuff happens. But, Deborah just thought this was so boring. Even her bone marrow failed her.
I don't think boring fits into this movie. It's not boring.
Don't either. It's not boring. There's a lot of stuff that's happening. But Deborah disagrees.
I would say overwhelming is more so what's going on in this movie.
Yeah, I think that's more the issue.
I'm not bored. I'm just like, what are we focusing on, guys?
Yeah, I'm not bored. I'm playing mental games to figure out what the hell's going on. Nick Pinkerton from The Village Voice wrote, as for the actual grand finale, Downey Jr. and Cheadle seem like they're already network gaming the PS3 release instead of facing any actual threat, and Warwick goes out like a chump. First of all, I love that review because it's such a time capsule. PS3 release.
Yeah.
Love
we
it.
Just got into the PS5 now.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
Wow, we've already had another console turnaround. Yikes. All right. I will say, I agree that Rourke just goes out like a chump.
He does.
It upsets me so much at how, like, he's got a really cool character, and all of a sudden, boop, nope.
Yep.
We're done with him.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get more into that because I got thoughts too. So this is my favorite negative review. It comes from Tony Macklin with TonyMacklin.net. He writes, Iron Man 2 could be Chaplin meets The Wrestler meets Shakespeare in Love meets Stan Lee. Instead, it's more The Scrooges meets Sarah Lee.
Wow, that's a lot of things he's comparing it to.
It's a lot of things.
What aspect of Shakespeare in Love did he want it to be like?
More Gwyneth Paltrow, I guess. So moving on to some positive reviews.
All right, guys. This is the positive review. The one I thought, this sums it up. Thomas D., an audience member, said, don't get me wrong. There's plenty wrong with Iron Man 2, but after rewatching it for about a third or fourth time, I couldn't help but enjoy the hell out of this film. It's nowhere near as bad as people are making it out to be. It's action-packed, filled with timely humor, and great character development, even if it does have a pretty weak villain. That sums it up.
My favorite positive review is Brian Lowry with Variety wrote, Iron Man 2 isn't as much fun as its predecessor, but by the time the smoke clears, it'll do.
Sure.
It'll do.
Hey, let's talk about our second chance with this movie.
Let's do it. Let's dive into it.
So, how did you feel more so or less rewatching this movie?
I was engaged with a lot of like the action sequences, and there were some just like really cool moments overall. But it's hard to describe because I felt like I got so overwhelmed with everything going on that I just felt like I almost struggled to take like every piece of this movie in.
It's a lot. I think for the most part, this is very enjoyable, fun, popcorn, let's watch some action movie.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start off, usually we're going to start off with things we liked, but I'm going to start off first by the biggest thing I didn't like. That way we can, it'll trickle in. Because I think we've already mentioned it, he's juggling too much. That's my biggest issue. There's too many things happening in this movie. I think we could have combined one or two of them to help us focus. But let me just go on of what is happening in this movie. The government wants to take Tony's Iron Man suit. He's having difficulty running Stark Industries. Eventually just gives it to Pepper. Ivan wants to kill Tony. Justin Hammer wants to compete with Tony because he wants to be better than Tony. There's this whole friendship with Rhodey. So, like, because Rhodey's trying to help him, but also, like, calm him down, and they fight, and they got to be best friends again. Tony also wants to bang Natalie, the new, like, PR lady, who turns out to be Black Widow. But also, he's romantically or trying to romance Pepper after talking with Pepper about wanting to bang Natalie. We'll get on to that. S.H.I.E.L.D. needs to monitor Tony. And then Tony's arc reactor is killing him. So we've got so many things happening for poor little Tony Stark in this movie. If I was cutting one of those out, it would probably be Tony's arc reactor killing him. The reason why is because for the rest of the MCU, I think the next movie that Iron Man 3, he fixes it almost instantly. It's not really an issue for him throughout the movie. And then all of a sudden at the end, they're like, oh, hey, we could just do surgery real quick. And it's solved almost instantly. And I thought, well, this makes this movie really pointless having this. I do think it's really good in this movie. Just with the whole MCU, this doesn't really fit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since we have too many other things we got going on.
So I do have some thoughts about that. I agree with you. If I was going to take anything out, that would probably be the first to go, but I would replace it with him battling his new responsibility of being Iron Man and the stress and all the things that come with that. And I think that would also tie in nicely with like his issues with the government and the suit. And then we also see throughout the movie like people trying to make replicas of his suit. So I think like instead of having him dying be like his like journey of an issue, I think it could have been more interesting and made more sense with everything else going on if he's just like mentally struggling with like what all this means and what am I responsible for, you know, instead of like, yeah, I'm dying. It's like I know you're not going to die. You're signed up for so many more movies.
You have to be in the Avengers. You're not going to die.
Right. Like to me, that was just like the most like whatever storyline. It could have been completely taken out and I don't think anything would have really changed. But yeah, I think it could have been more interesting to see him like battling with like all what he's created.
I think the main focus of this movie should have been the government is trying to take Tony's suit away.
Yeah.
Make that your big focus. And instead of having Whiplash / Ivan your main villain, make it Justin Hammer, the guy the government does trust with making machines like this, who's not very good at making the machines. Tony's far superior and his stuff is working. And Justin Hammer trying to like one up Tony, making him slightly more competent. He doesn't have to be. I like the fact that he's just not good. He's just more good at like talking his way out of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe along the way, he and Ivan, because like their relationship in this movie, Ivan just wants to kill Tony for the issue of like his dad getting screwed over by Tony's dad. And so now that his dad has died, I want to kill Tony now. And I don't think that I need a better reason for him to like want to join up in the government. Like, hey, we want this crazy psycho guy to help us.
Yeah, that there's so many issues I have with that whole dynamic. However, one of the things I did like was the casting of Mickey Rourke and Sam Rockwell.
I like everyone.
I think like those two specifically as villains are really fun. First of all, Mickey Rourke is perfect as like an unhinged villain who just wants revenge. I think it's a great casting. And then Sam Rockwell is this like swarmy kind of like guy who's incompetent, but like you said, can talk his way out of anything. Like Sam Rockwell's good at playing charm like that. Yeah, he's got the charm, but he's also really good at playing those like manipulative guys. So I think like the casting of those two were wonderful. I just don't think they were given enough to do. That's my main issue with that.
Because it's all divided up with too many things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, take the Tony stuff out and give these two more room to have fun stuff. Because I think a lot of the reasons why at least superhero movies get praised or get booed on is the villain itself. We kind of remember the movies because of the villains that are in them.
Mm-hmm.
And because this movie doesn't have like, we can't really tell who is our main villain. And out of that, like the villain that we kind of push Whiplash to be the main villain, he goes out like a chump.
But one thing I do like is Whiplash's entrance. I think it's so dope. It's such a good sequence. Him being on the race car track and just whipping cars in half. Like, I just think that's so dope and powerful.
The energy that comes in that scene of him just like, because Tony's racing around this track during the Monaco event, and Whiplash is in like the mechanic's outfit, and all of a sudden he just walks on the track and everyone's like, what the hell is this guy doing? And then his mechanic outfit just starts burning off to reveal his like energy electric jump rope things, and just he starts slashing and you're just like, it makes my heart beat with excitement just every time I see it. Just the music with it too. I'm like, oh, I'm tense watching it. His eyes, his teeth with his like gold teeth. Ugh.
Yeah, and he's ready. Like he's ready to seek revenge. Like this dude is ready to go places to get what he wants. And so I think Mickey Rourke fits that so well of this like crazy guy who just like will do anything. So I think his entrance is epic. I love his entrance. It might be like my favorite part of the film because it's just so like suspenseful and well done and like shocking. But then after that, he's literally just placed in a lab with Sam Rockwell. And so I think what could have been really cool is instead of having basically in the movie, Sam Rockwell recruits Whiplash to make Iron Man suits that he could kind of knock off and sell to the military. Instead of doing all that, because you're right, like why would he hire some clearly unhinged person to be in charge of that?
Maybe he could have been like, hey, your suit, your thing worked really well against Iron Man. With my abilities, my laboratory, maybe you could help make way better things to destroy him.
Exactly, that's where I was going. What I would have done instead of like having him just like build this weird Iron Man robot army is, hey, I fucking hate Iron Man. He's my competition. I want him out. I have a ton of money. Let me be your benefactor to build some like intense shit because like you've done it enough off of like no money.
This
so
way
like,
we make Hammer our number one villain.
Yes, like the brain villain.
Because he's like, fuck Tony. I'm always like in his shadow. I'm sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
Crazy
I want him
Russian
gone.
guy. Crazy Russian guy.
Let's get him. Let's get him to murder Tony Stark and take also his secrets. So like not only does he eliminate the competition, but like then we can get like what Tony has to make the suit. Like that would have been way more compelling and we would have been able to see Mickey Rourke just do more things and be more destructive and be a big bad as opposed to just like locking him up in a lab. Like you have Mickey Rourke as a villain and you throw him in the lab for most of the movie. That's what gets me.
Fun fact, do you know where that warehouse was?
No, where was it?
We got a special cameo. I don't want to say special. We get a cameo at that Grand Prix. Do you remember that cameo?
Stan Lee?
Elon Musk.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, my soul left my body when I saw Elon fucking Musk there. Like, oh my God.
So,
I have a lot of thoughts about it.
I don't know if because gets cameoed or because that's his actual that's his place.
Whoa.
They filmed at his like factory. They were probably like, yeah, if you let us film here, you could be in a cameo. That's maybe how that worked out. But yeah, that's his factory. And the people you see in the background are factory workers. They just filmed overnight and those guys are just doing their thing.
Damn. I mean, the factory does look like a very state-of-the-art kind of factory, so that makes perfect sense.
All right. So I think we could both agree the racetrack was the best moment in that movie.
Absolutely.
Awesome. My second favorite thing in that movie is just Cheadle as War Machine and then Iron Man, him coming to like snap out of it, Tony. You gotta not be such a loser. What are you doing, Tony? And then so he gets in the war, or I guess it's another Iron Man outfit that'll eventually become the War Machine. But the two of them fight at a party, and that's just fun seeing them crash through Tony's Malibu house. I like it. And then later they have to team up fighting that army of evil robots. And I just think the dynamic between them, I wish we had more moments in the movie with Rhodey and them being like best friends, or their friendship is being like tested. Because from the first movie, we had our Terrence Howard that got recast for a lot of different reasons that we don't know for sure. It's all speculation. For like money disputes and just like they didn't like him as the character. Whatever. We got an upgrade with Cheadle.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
So glad it's him.
Yeah. I also like to just like real quick on that note, I like this recast because I feel like Cheadle adds more. Like it's not just like, oh, swap characters. Like he brings this interesting dynamic and like actually kind of elevates the story and their friendship. So I just really like Cheadle. I think he's great. But like it's nice that he didn't just like come in to replace an actor. Like he came in and he added more.
So you mentioned Ivan, Mickey Rourke is in a lab most of the time. I like Tony in the lab. I like those scenes where him like learning, testing things, and when he's like discovering a new element to help his like chest arc reactor. I really like him like twiddling around in the lab. It's so fun to me
I
because it's
agree.
reminiscent of the first one.
Mhm.
He gets to talk to Robot Jarvis, which is fun. Yeah, I like scenes like where he's tinkering and learning. Those appeal to me.
Yeah, I do too. I think that they are sort of like stripping back the superhero, if you will, and just getting into his lab to figure out like how he can better his suit, his armor, like his situation. And yeah, I just find it fun just like watching him work because he's doing the most.
And especially I've already mentioned I don't like the arc reactor like is killing him. I
Mhm.
do like that like he's got old footage of his father that he was watching, and like they mentioned this like that he has the Tony now has the key to the future or something, and this like model of a map of a giant city is like just his dad's secret code of this is how you make it. I don't have the technology, and I like Tony realizing that and putting that map and like taking it like on the 405
Mhm, yeah.
just driving down the, or I think it's a PCH, whatever, he's driving with it and the convertible. But he, yeah, he uses that and rebuilds it and is able to build a new arc that doesn't kill him as much. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about Black Widow because that's the reason why we rewatched this one to begin with, because
Yeah.
this was her start. How did you
Oh,
feel about Black
oh,
Widow's start?
I have thoughts. I have thoughts. I have
So,
thoughts.
just to get a recap for those who do not remember, she comes in as the PR for Stark Industries, Natalie Rushman. And we are led to believe that she is just PR that works there. She gets we see a little moments where she's really good at fighting. You're like, oh, that's interesting. It just sprinkled in, and eventually we learn that, yeah, she works for S.H.I.E.L.D.
So I have a lot of issues with the way that she's introduced,
Uh-huh.
mainly because it's just eye candy for a long time. Like you mentioned earlier, Tony wants to bang her. Even
That's like
though
one of the first things, like when she's introduced. It wasn't like, hey, is she qualified for this position? Like,
no,
what is her history? I mean, he instantly does like a background check, but it was more so to like, ooh, she has modeling pictures.
yeah, yikes.
The I will say
Yikes.
for her character, it's insane the length they went to hide the fact that she's Black Widow.
Yeah,
Like
I think that's pretty neat.
Natasha had to have that like, you know, that shoot where she's like posing in underwear for some like, what is like Black Widow doing that just to like make that as a cover somehow? It's nuts.
So like I have a lot of issues with this introduction because like I said, she's just eye candy at first who can like, oh, she like beat Happy's ass. Weird. Um she essentially does get the job because Tony wants to bang her, which is all sorts of like yikes. Um
Especially when he's saying that to Pepper, who, as far as we're led to
yeah,
believe, those two are going to be a thing.
yeah.
And if he's trying to romance her, why is he saying that to her?
It's gross. It's gross. And she's just like, no, you're not talking to her. Like it was just weird. So because he gives Pepper the CEO position of Tony Stark Enterprises, he wants to make uh Scarlett Johansson his new assistant, and it just has like this very creepy vibe of like I want her near me so I can like have fun with her. It's gross. I honestly looking back now and watching it in this year, I think I would have rather liked if like Scarlett Johansson was kind of almost like this like dressed down, kind of nerdy, just kind of like a nobody in the shadows kind of person. And Pepper like finds this very like geeky, like weird kind of girl and is like, hey, I found her, she's very qualified, she should be your assistant. Not sexualized at all. And I think that would have made the reveal even more fun of like this meek kind of quiet girl is like an agent of, and she is like she is spying on you, she's infiltrating your life.
I think Natasha has to be some sort of seductress at some point, and she has to have that like sex appeal to fool those stupid men that would fall for this. It's necessary. I think for like the spy.
I could see that, but
it doesn't help her case when, if you're trying to be a spy and trying to like lay low, having someone who's incredibly attractive, you know, like, oh, everyone's gonna take notice of her. That secret's gonna be out.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna remember her.
I just wonder if it was necessary for this particular circumstances that she had to be like sexual, like eye candy, so, you know, like to get what the guy
what you want
wants.
Is Natasha to be more of a chameleon.
Yeah.
An actress.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, because I think like in this context, her role is just to like infiltrate Tony and see if he's worthy of being in the Avengers. Like she's not really necessarily trying to get anything out of him. And I mean, I am all about like females using their sexuality to like to confuse men and get them to give them what they want. I like, that's not a problem. And I get that sometimes she has to do that. But for like this particular role, I think it would have just been so much cooler if she was like sort of meek and just like this like assistant who like is just like quietly like following his whole life and knows what's up. And maybe they're bonding as friends. But like to have her be so sexualized right off the bat, almost like to me diminishes her power. And so then
to me, I didn't pick up on that. To me, that says she has all this power and just all these boys. It just more says so for the males of that situation that Tony's just a sucker for pretty girls, even if they're smarter than him, like way more clever than he can be.
And another thing that does bother me about Black Widow in this is that her reveal is like incredibly weak. It's an incredibly weak reveal that like she's not who she says she is. She's actually a badass.
I think it's even brushed off even more because Tony goes to like get some donuts and he's chilling at Randy's Donuts, which is a really cool shot. We've been there. We ate some donuts there.
Mm-hmm.
We get Nick Fury. He pops up like, "Hey Tony, what's up? Let's talk." And then Natasha just walks up casually to the table in her Black Widow outfit. Oh, she's worked for me.
Yeah.
It plays it nonchalant, like casual, like duh, you should have known. You should have read on the internet that she was Black Widow beforehand, idiot.
Right.
All the audience knew, Tony. You should have known too, you stupid asshole.
Yeah, so to me that's like very anticlimactic. It's like, oh, you're a spy? All right. Towards the end, when she gets her like badass fight moment, it also doesn't feel strong enough to be like, damn, this girl kicks ass, she is Black Widow. Like it just felt like, I'm here to help, poo poo. Like I don't.
Yeah, she at the end she goes to Stark Industries to. They were stopping. They were trying to get to Ivan,
mm-hmm.
and he turns out to not be there.
Yeah.
Or Hammer Industries. Yeah, they go to Hammer Industries to get Ivan, but he's not there. And Favreau's character drives her there. Happy is fighting one guy while she just obliterates a lot of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Just like beats the shit out of everyone. I think we almost focus more on the fact that Happy is just, it's almost comically that he just got one versus she got like 40 people.
Can we just like get into the pepper of it all real quick?
Let's pepper it up because like I don't get how she'll ever like him. And I get why he would eventually like her, but he's always after tail.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's that. I have never ever gotten the chemistry between those two. I never like rooted for them. I argue that Pepper Potts is the worst female character in the Marvel universe, and that includes Natalie Portman. Okay.
Wow, shots fired.
Yeah. I don't like her. But anyway, so she, like, to me, why I don't like her is because she is so obsessed with Tony's business in such a way that it's basically her personality. I don't know who Pepper is outside of Tony. And that's, to me, terrible character development, but also like kind of sexist. Okay. And I it's weird when Tony promotes her to be chairman and CEO of Stark Industries. It just feels like he's bored with it, doesn't want to deal with it anymore, and he's just so over it that he just like throws it at her, just like you know what, you do it, I don't care. And
wait,
it does,
yeah, you know a lot about this. You should run it.
Yeah, it did, but it doesn't feel like earned. It's not like this is something like she's mentioned before that she wants, this is a goal of hers. It's more just like,
but
yeah, you want it, you want to take it. I'm over it. And it just, to me, it felt like it was just like throwing it at her. Like, it felt more like a treat for a lapdog rather than like this cool like gesture that she wanted, and he's like, you know what, you have it, you deserve it. It's more just like, yeah, you're in charge, I don't care about it anymore.
At the end, when she's at the expo, they destroy a lot of the robots, there's a robot she's standing right next to, and it's like beeping a lot, and my first thoughts were, stop looking at it like an asshole and run away from that thing. I don't know why you think like, oh, what is it? Like, you're smarter than this. You know that there's dangerous robots. This thing is beeping a lot, probably like a bomb. Go away from it. It makes sense that Tony would go rescue her. Not that he's like, I'm in love with Pepper. It was more like oh shit, she's been a really great friend, great work person for me. I got to go make sure my number 2 is safe. And he saves her. He thinks about her. But then they like kiss at the end of the rooftop. And I thought, feels really unearned, because I don't think there's been any romance throughout this. We already know we should give her more of a personality of what she wants. But would you have rather seen an inkling of romance in the first one, more of the two of them liking each other in this? Where do you want them to have a romance at all, or no romance at all?
See, like, while I don't like them and their chemistry, I think that like Iron Man is at a point where he like needs to calm down and get settled, and like I think they could be together in a way that's not toxic as hell. Because a lot of it too is like Tony's like, well, you're the only one that can put up with me, so let's fall in love.
I think this is the movie where we could have had that, or at least start that way in the third. Like, we could do it again, like Batman vs Superman, where we get a movie, they're together in the next one. We know it's logically that they should be together. Give us a moment where like he actually does like nice things for her based on personality, not just saving her life because we're in a dire situation, but he actually genuinely cares about her. And that way, when we time jump to the next movie, they're already in a relationship.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, like the first one could be kind of sprinkled with like he's falling in love with her.
I just don't think we ever see that, because he's always trying to get some young, sexy woman
right in front of her, goddamn face,
asking her like, hey, do you think I could tap that?
I do want to say one thing I did like and find interesting, and I wish it was explored more, was just the politics of the Iron Man suit. I liked the Senate hearing. I wish like it was taken
with Gary Shandling.
Yeah, with Gary Shandling. Like, that was so cool. Like, I loved him playing this like icky like senator, congressman. Like I liked that a lot. And I liked the points that were being brought up in that hearing. I just wish it was more taken a little more seriously and like spread throughout the movie a little bit more, because I do find it to be very fascinating that Tony has essentially built a war machine and that is capable of a lot of destruction. And
especially since the first movie was his Stark Industries produce weapons for war, and
yes.
he makes this thing makes his suit to kind of prevent war from happening. And so a good sequel idea would have been the main focus being the government that he worked for and worked with for a lot of time. Hey, you need to give us your stuff. No. I'm using it. Fuck you guys. I'm Iron Man. Especially when we ended the first movie with I'm Iron Man. Yeah, let the biggest issue be with Tony versus the government through the eyes of Justin Hammer.
Yeah.
Smoother.
I think too, like that would have tied in well with Whiplash being like, yeah, okay, you know what? Maybe the government's not wrong that this technology can get in the wrong hands. Because I just find that interesting to grapple with the fact of like, no, Tony's like, no, I got this. Like, you can trust me. Like, I got this. No issues. And then we find out, no, someone can copy your technology and use it for all wrong reasons. And even when Hammer does that, it doesn't seem like there's much like repercussions from that. It's just sort of like, well, I killed all those robots. Cool.
And you know what? I'm gonna tweak this movie a bit. If I was making this, get Justin in a suit. Get Justin Hammer in a suit, but as soon as he gets out there, it fucking goes wrong and like breaks his leg. I don't want it to twist, like one of his robots twisted somebody and like broke their back or something. But like you get a cool moment of like Justin Hammer revealed, so it's going to be like War Machine and Iron Man versus Whiplash and whatever Justin Hammer is doing. And as soon as he like strikes a pose and like it breaks off an arm, oh no, and like because he's fucking terrible, and Whiplash will like, you fucking idiot, and just smack him away.
That would be way more fun than the ending Hammer got, where it was like, what, like, you're arrested, sir, come with us. Like,
yeah,
okay.
Gwyneth Paltrow on the phone, police, this guy in front of me did a bad thing. He's responsible for all these robots. Wait, you're gonna tattle on me? What? I wasn't me. No. Yeah, it was you. You can't hide from this. And he just stood there and got arrested. He didn't like try and run away.
No, it was just like, okay, I'll go.
I definitely didn't want him to die. I like that idea. I hope they bring him back somehow. They did bring him back once for one of the Marvel one shots. I think that's on like the Thor Dark World Blu-ray. Yeah, that's why no one saw it.
I just really briefly do want to say that we've mentioned this briefly before, but this one movie does feel as if it's like 7 Iron Man movies crammed into one, which is something that, like we both said, felt very overwhelming. And I think a lot of that boils down to the script. And I just feel the need to say that Mr. Anderson himself, Justin Theroux, was our screenwriter for it.
So I don't think it was entirely his fault. I do think there's probably a lot of interference from higher ups at Marvel because, again, this is the third entry into our MCU universe, the first being Iron Man and then Incredible Hulk. So this is the third one where we're definitely establishing, especially since we got Fury and Black Widow and War Machine, we're building this universe. So because I have some notes for some fun facts. Jon Favreau had a lot of friction with the Marvel higher-ups due to constant intervention. To the point that they were having him rewrite the script as the film was still shooting.
Oh.
In particular, elements such as the increased prominence of S.H.I.E.L.D. subplot were the result of a need to establish the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe in preparation for the Avengers, at the expense of the coherence of the film's own plot.
You know, gotta get
And
that
this is
commercial in
why-
there.
And this is why he did turn down directing Iron Man 3.
Wow.
I think this says a lot because from Favreau's history of directing and writing movies, he hits home runs like all the time. Elf, Chef. I mean, I'm not going to go on the list. They're all great. Even Jungle Book, you know, he's still killing it. And now Mandalorian, killing it. So with someone like talent like that, I don't know why you would like tell him, you know what, do this instead. I don't know. I think I already wrote it, or I already think this script was good, and I'm working off of it, so it's probably going to be great. Yeah, but we really need you to squeeze some other stuff in there.
Yeah, we really need you to put the commercials in for future movies. Thanks.
And I really need you to focus on these S.H.I.E.L.D. characters because we're going to make a show eventually about one of them. And then we're going to totally throw that show out the window because we're going to make a subplot in another movie that makes all those guys bad. So I don't know what you want to do. It becomes a mess. And that brings me to another point of another movie so Iron Man is so against the government in this one and against him. It's really weird in Civil War that he so quickly is like, you know what? Let's do what the government says.
Yes.
Jessica, how do you feel about giving this movie a second chance?
So I say, do not give this movie a second chance. Here's why. It's a mess. It is a mess. It is a goddamn mess. I find that there were very cool elements. It's not the most it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. And it's probably not the worst Marvel movie out there, but it's so just convoluted that it almost feels like brain exercises while you're watching it. I say there are so many other Marvel movies. There's so many really cool comic book adaptations. Spend time watching that instead, as opposed to revisiting this, because I don't think it's necessary to watch it again.
I'm going to say give it a second chance, everybody.
Oh.
I like the action in it. I think the racetrack scene's fun. Them just destroying just a shit ton of like AI robots at the end is a lot wild. We got a lot of fun performances from actors and goofy characters. Yeah, there was too much going on. Yeah, I don't know what's happening, but it's fun eye candy. I love it all.
All right.
And you get to see the beginning of like Black Widow. You get to see some stuff that builds the world. I mean, if you need to rewatch a Marvel movie, this is not the one. Rewatch Infinity War and Endgame. Those are the best ones. But it is fun seeing the beginning of like just Robert Downey Jr. being Tony Stark is just always entertaining. I say go for it. Why not? It's fun.
All right. Disagreement.
It's definitely not the worst Marvel MCU movie.
No, it's not.
Bottom 5 for sure.
But yes, bottom
Bottom
5.
5, not the worst.
Not the worst.
It may make the bottom 3, but I don't know. It's too many to choose from.
There's a lot. There's a lot of them.
There's like 21 movies now.
Are we at 21? I thought it was like 23.
Oh, we might be at 20.
I don't know.
We might be at 22 or 23. I don't know. I
don't know. And guess what? More are coming. So we got a lot. We got a lot. All right. Well, we have one that says give it a second chance, one says don't. You guys be the deciding factor. Leave a comment, leave a review. Let us know what you think. Do you think that this deserves a second chance? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are there other Marvel movies you think deserve a second chance? Let us know. Comment. If you could leave a review, that's super helpful so more people can find us. And on social media, you can also find us at Second Chance Movies on Instagram and Twitter, so you can stay up to date on so you can stay up to date on episodes to come. And Joe, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me. I'm the Joe Harper, and I have a fun little page where I just take pictures of my toys, Action Figures.
We'll link those down below. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Jessquaz, JESSKWAZZ. And you can also find a link to my other podcast, Entertainment Buffet Podcast, in the description down below.
And a shout out to Beaty McBeatface for making our cool intro theme song.
Our boy, killing it with a theme song. I love to hear it every single time, and I hear it a lot, and it never gets old. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for all the support. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you next week with another Marvel movie. I'm Iron Man.
Second chance move.